mild welcome to me. That was a good warm-up. That was a good practice. In just a moment, I am going to bring the woman of the hour out here. And when Bonnie Wright walks on this stage, I want everything you did, bring that up to a 10. All right, everyone? Because, ladies and gentlemen, kids, folks, everyone in the audience, please welcome Bonnie Wright! I like they've given us this nice buffer chair. Well, welcome. So this is your debut at Tampa Bay Comic-Con.
For sure, yeah, it's good to be here.
Woo! How does it feel being the new kid at the con?
Oh, good. What happened to the new kid? Is there a initiation? What happens?
There are a list of tasks. You should have been assigned them previously, but we'll make sure we get that to you.
Okay, cool. I'm hoping there's an alligator somewhere.
It is Florida, just you wait. So, folks, we have 2 microphones set up in the aisle, so if you want to start setting up for questions. So, let me get this out of the way, because I'm the moderator and I get to be the bad guy here. Let's not do autograph questions, let's not do photo questions, because you know what? Bonnie is here all weekend doing that. So if you'd like a photo or an autograph with her, you have the opportunity. Just not here, because I'm not letting anyone climb on this stage. I will go mom on you, because safety first, all right? Awesome, and let's make sure we don't need any personal questions, because we want to hear all about Bonnie's stories, about all of her experiences, okay? Yes. All right, and you know, I was sort of looking at your Instagram earlier, and I'm just so overwhelmed and impressed by how much you do for the environment and your involvement in Greenpeace and all of that. Do you want to speak about that a little bit?
Yeah, sure. In fact, the last time I was in Florida was on the Arctic Sunrise, which is one of Greenpeace's ships. We docked in Miami after a trip that we took from Bahamas through to Miami, through the Gulf, doing different like data collection of microplastics, which essentially is like dropping a net out of a ship to trawl along, like a fishing net would kind of drag along, to see how much microplastics was in that one section, and that data is being part of a big global kind of piece of research. So that was actually the last time I was in Florida. But yeah, I guess my involvement with Greenpeace started coming up to about 3 years ago, and just from my own kind of quiet interest in trying to lower my kind of impact and be a bit more mindful in the way that I consume products and the way that I kind of, I guess, look beyond, you know, my sort of interaction with something. Like, just because I buy something and I interact with it, it obviously has an afterlife to that, and it also had a life before it. So just trying to be more aware of that led me to working with Greenpeace. And it's taken me to some really interesting places, and I've met some really interesting campaigners that work tirelessly to sort of push these topics to our governments and to corporations, and it's been really cool. I mean, through obviously Instagram and social media is this amazing way to kind of get this immediate sort of feedback and opinion from everyone, and everyone's just been super enthusiastic to like learn more themselves and see how they can begin to shape their own habits. So it's been, I think, out of all the different areas of like non-profit work, the plastics has definitely been like the most most response.
And something I hear from a lot of friends in my life and a lot of people is it's almost sort of overwhelming how much is to be done. So if you were to just suggest one tiny change that someone could make in their life to, you know, in terms of recycling and not using single-use plastics, what would be one suggestion that you would offer to people?
Yeah, sure. I guess you've all heard of the reusable bottle thing, but there's many other kind of cool reusable products that are happening for other things we consume. I mean, like, I got my coffee this morning in my reusable cup that I've had for like 3 years, and I've never lost it, it's never broken. I've used the same cup, and I'm not very good at maths, so I'm not going to calculate how many cups I've saved from, you know, getting into the water and ocean, and because, you know, paper, sadly, a lot of those paper cups, like a Starbucks cup, actually has plastic film on the inside of it. So it's not just about like the lid. So that's a good thing, maybe a reusable cup for your iced coffee or hot coffee. And then another thing that I love, because obviously we're often always getting food to go and take out. I mean, you're at obviously a convention centre here, you can have lunch. Another thing I love is a thing called to-go-ware, which is a really sweet little set of utensils that have this perfect little pouch and you can keep them in your bag. And they have a kid's size version and an adult size version. I actually also like the kids one because it's small and it fits in your handbag. But yeah, that's called to-go-ware, and they're basically reusable utensils. So yeah, reusable really is the best way to have the least impact because it's a complete closed loop. You're reusing it, washing it, reusing it. So yeah, but it's overwhelming, and I think just choose one thing and try to do that for 1 week and see how you go.
Great, thank you. We're getting ready to open it up for questions, so if you have any questions, you can head right up to those microphones, everybody. I think, is the handmaid, oh, look at that, how polite you were. Yes, right over here.
Okay, thank you. My question is, what made you want to audition for the Harry Potter movies?
Yeah, so it was actually my brother who inspired me to audition. He had read the first 2 books. He's my older brother. I was 9 at the time, so I hadn't yet gotten around to read them. And we heard that they were doing the auditions. It was becoming public knowledge that these books were going to be made into films. And being my older brother, kind of, I guess, my Ron to Ginny, he was like, you should audition for Ginny. And I don't know who he was talking about, but believing everything my older brother said, I was like, okay, I'll try. So my mum came home from work, and my family are not anything, like neither of my parents are in the entertainment industry or at all, and I said, Mum, can you get me an audition in Harry Potter? She was like, what? Okay. So she called the publishers. So in England, we like how you have Scholastic here in England, it's Bloomsbury Publishers. So she called them. They gave her the number of the casting director, and then the casting director said to send some pictures of myself and for me to write a sentence of what role I wanted to play and why. Which I keep meaning to find the sentence because my mum says she still has it. But anyway, that's why I had 2 auditions and I got the role. So I was not, it was definitely, I was one of those kids who loved taking part in anything and everything just to sort of experience what that meant. So when I went to the audition, I definitely did not, I really did not think I was going to get it. It was something that my brother and I were like, that's cool, let's go and see what an audition is. And so when I got it, finally, I sort of, you had that excitement, and then I thought, what does this even, mean? And the first day on set was, it was like being thrown into a deep end of a pool, and I don't know, speaking a different language, and it was disorientating, but it was exciting to be young and innocent, learning really quickly. So yeah, that's how it came about.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
So, because your brother was the one that compelled you to go to that audition, has he sort of, ever since then, sort of had this mindset of, well, I gave you really good advice, so you're going to listen to everything?
No, luckily he's not. There's no sense of owing him anything. He luckily as well is not someone who would like to be in front of the camera, so there was never any desire for him to be in my shoes in front of the camera, so he's very much loved. I was very lucky that my family got to be really part of that experience. I think for all of us, all our families were very much involved in that experience. It completely, obviously, changed the course of the dynamic of my day-to-day life and, missing school and different things. And I was fortunate that either one of my parents came with me on set. And then when I think my brother was over 18, he then did a few days and came on set with me. So it was, I think there was not only with the people you saw on screen, but there was the families around those people, and then there's all the crew that you didn't see. The impact and the scale of that film was, so big. It's not just the people that you kind of recognize that were part of it.
Absolutely, thank you. We have someone over here.
What Hogwarts year was your favorite to film?
Ooh, I think my first year at Hogwarts, so the second film, Chamber of Secrets, was obviously, suddenly my character's thrown into a very pivotal story for the actual storyline that's happening. So that was really exciting for me. Like the first film, obviously I'm just on platform, I had 3 quarters and I didn't get to go to Hogwarts. So when I finally got my uniform, and I'd also never worn a uniform, like no school I'd been to I'd ever had like a uniform, so it was like my first. And I very proudly wore my Gryffindor. 10 years later I was not so into the outfit. Got a bit itchy by the end, but yeah.
I think we've got a Ravenfall over here with a question.
What do you think was the best part of acting in the Harry Potter movies?
Ooh, best part of acting. I think I loved all the sort of like action scenes, all the things that I was, we were chasing and running, or things that needed like makeup effects to be, say I don't know, explosions happened and suddenly there was like stuff all over our face, and the stuff that felt like high energy, because the adrenaline when you're shooting something feels really real, and there's a kind of like palpable energy on set when the stakes are really high or someone's really threatened in the scene, and that was really infectious. So I love those kind of things, and I was always quite a sporty kid, so I loved that kind of high energy stuff. Whereas I would say the more kind of quieter scenes were definitely more challenging, I would say. I like action stuff. Thank you.
Thank you. Camp Half-Blood.
Yes, which people refer to as the Greek Harry Potter. Hello.
Hello.
So, everyone knows that the books came out before the movies ended. So, my question is, when did you personally find out Harry and Ginny were a thing, and how did that affect your performance interactions with everybody else?
Yeah, I mean, I found out, depending on how fast you read the book, I found out at the same time as everyone else. And I mean, everyone, we got the books on the same day that everyone else did, and read them in the same way that you all would have, which was important. I think it's good that it wasn't kind of given to us early on, and it was a weird experience, like shooting something, being invested already in the character, but like not knowing the fate of that character. And making sure that like no one told you things before you got to it, wanting to kind of find it on your own. I guess there were definitely like clues throughout the storyline, and maybe that was kind of where we were kind of going to or edging towards. But yeah, it completely shifted, obviously, the significance of my character, and continued to all the way to the end of the books. In terms of, I guess it just affected the way I was playing the role, because suddenly, the pressure was like slightly more on a little bit. The significance meant that a lot more people, in terms of the fan base and the audience and all of you, suddenly there's more kind of eyes, I guess, watching that relationship, because it's with, our lead of the story and hero of the story. But it didn't really change my relationship with Dan necessarily, like really. By that point we knew each other so well that it was just like something that we kind of had to do and explore. But it is a strange, when you've known someone at that point already, like 6 years, as a kid, it's quite a bizarre thing to have to do in front of like hundreds of people on stage. It's like, no pressure, but okay, now, go. Okay. But yeah, it was fun. Thank you.
Hi, over here.
In Harry Potter, what was your favorite prop that you got to keep?
Oh, well, I didn't get to keep it, sadly, but I love my wand. But yeah, we didn't. Everything was checked in and checked out. Like it was almost like there was a list of our names and any scenes that we had to use props and wands, and every time we stepped off set and on set, we had to literally like be checked out and checked in. And all of those things are so well archived, hence why you can now go to all these different exhibitions and whatnot and see them for yourself. But my wand I loved, because we each got to sort of choose our wand. Not in the same magical sense that you would if you went to Ollivander's and it chose you, but you have a selection on a table and we can like feel it out and see which one ours was. And so I got very attached to my wand. May have broken a few at times, but definitely attached to the idea. So yeah, I love that. And then, as I was saying, even though towards the end I did begin to sort of like despise my Gryffindor uniform because it's very hot, I also have I would quietly probably wear that again if someone gave it to me. But yeah, that was it.
You spend a lot of time in Orlando at Universal. Have you ever sort of felt compelled to go into Ollivanders and see what choose you?
Oh yeah, I've been, but every time I go, I'm always with a friend and I'm like, you need the experience. It's always fun watching, or honestly, watching it with a group, like if there's lots of people and a little kid gets chosen, and just seeing that suspension of disbelief and seeing that world that they're fully captivated by and they're in. I think obviously the sets that we built were so incredible. Like as far as film sets go, our sets were as real as they could be. Like the Great Hall wasn't just, you know, fake fiberglass flooring, it was like real York stone, like under our feet, because they knew that it was going to be there forever, and they knew that by creating a real world, like the magic of it would be believed. So so that was incredible, being on those sets. When we all went to this theme park for the first time, it was like, oh wow, you turn a corner and it's not like scaffolding and a set, it's actually like the back of the building. Like this actually exists, like you know, you can, and this sweet shop, like there are actual sweets and things, and we can, you know, take the sweets and eat them. And there is actually butterbeer coming out of the taps and all that, and so it was really bizarre for us to go to the theme park for the first time because we were still shooting the last film. And it was this weird, like we never thought it could get more real, almost, the experience. So it's pretty cool seeing people being able to go into that world. When for so many people, you know, obviously we all miss having, if only the movies kept going on and more kept coming out, but it's the closest to that, yes. It's like a home that people love to go to.
Absolutely. We've got a Gryffindor down here.
If you didn't get the part of Jenny, what career would you want?
Ooh, don't know, I guess I started acting when I was 9 years old, so I was kind of thrown into this world and industry and a kind of job before I knew what I wanted to do. So I've ended up still working in the film industry. I'm more now behind the camera. I'm now directing and writing my own projects and work, and that's what I studied at college. So I think I still would have done something in a creative kind of field. Like my family are all very much artists and designers. I always loved set design, but I don't know if I just came to realizing I liked that, obviously, because I was on the film sets. Like I never know things that were like thoughts of mine because of the experience and thoughts of mine that are separate and just I would have had anyway. So I would say something still kind of creative, but maybe more in a fine art sense. I don't know whether that's like painting or sculpture, but maybe something more, less like film and entertainment and more like gallery-based work. Thank you.
And as a director, you collaborate a lot with people that you're close to or people that you're familiar with. How do you sort of select those projects that you'd like to do?
It's difficult. I mean, I guess when I left, so I graduated 7 years ago, and since then have just been using that time to really like play and see what stories I want to tell and what kind of genre and what kind of form, and it's been a really enjoyable time to just make short films and music videos and things that kind of take a bit less time and less production. I guess they just come to you, I don't know, they just evolve and come to you. You could be stuck on a kind of message that you want to convey, you could be stuck on a feeling that you want to explore with a character. It can really come from many different angles. I mean, the film that I've been working on for the last year, that will be my first feature film that we haven't even started shooting yet, but the development of it, is the first film of mine that will really blend my interest with the environment and narrative work, like rather than blending it in a sense of making like a documentary. This is actually, it's essentially like a thriller monster movie about pollution. So it's been fun to also, because it's a genre that I personally love watching, but I never thought I would make a kind of monster horror movie. Like I love watching it, but so it's been a really exciting, it's really exciting to be surprised, I guess, always. To like, oh, I didn't know I wanted to make that, or I could make it, and trying. And there's been, you know, I've been super lucky that some actors that were in the films with me, in Harry Potter films with me, have come and played roles in my films, so that's been cool.
Well, we're looking forward to your next film.
Yeah, thanks.
Yes, right over here.
Hi. So Ginny is my favorite character from the series, and I wanted to ask you what your favorite Ginny Weasley moment is from the books.
Ooh, there's Sadly, so many. I wish the films could have been like 5-6 hours long, and we could have had everything in them, which everyone would agree with. I think, yeah, because a lot of the things, I had to sort of contain and know about her, but I couldn't ever sort of explore those scenes or express them. I just had to kind of feed them into the backstory of the character. I mean, there was never enough Quidditch of her. There was so much Quidditch, and we know that obviously that's her career that she goes, into. So it would have been very useful if we'd seen a lot more of that. And I think just the development of the relationship with Harry, I would have loved to see those kind of few more moments of. What I loved about her is that she knew Harry's responsibility in terms of sort of defeating Lord Voldemort and defeating all the evil that was in the world and continues obviously in their world, and she was like a quiet, sort of supportive, brave, courageous woman, but she wasn't kind of waving a flag about it and shouting about it. She just did it in a very subtle, calm way. That is what kind of I think Harry was drawn to, because it wasn't like most people giving him this pressure of this big thing. She was this kind of interesting, quiet, courageous. Like David Yates, who directed the last 3 films, we all used to call her a warrior. She was quite she had a lot of perseverance. And so I always wish there were more moments and more scenes that I could have kind of shown that, essentially, and shown the kind of wooing of the two of them and their relationship. So yeah, I guess that. I don't know, I always think I need to read the books again. It's been a while and see all the bits that, although maybe I'll just be maybe I'll just get really sad and I can still do that. But yeah, so much, I don't know. And then there was so much fun we had in the Weasley house in the Burrows that some stuff it never got into the film because it was just, I think we all love shooting it, so we just shot it, but really it was no, this serves the story and we kind of need to cut, this. I think what's hard to understand with filmmaking, when you adapt something, at the end of the day, a film is a hero's journey. It's one hero, and our hero is Harry. So if a scene or a story didn't serve the key narrative that was happening for Harry, sadly, it kind of couldn't be in the film, just because it couldn't be that long. So it was always that reminder of, whereas a book, you're kind of world building a little bit more. You can veer off down a corridor in Hogwarts and have a little story there. There's more space and time to I always think it's kind of similar to television. In TV, we're able to sit with characters for a really long time and get to know them. Whereas with film, it's next event, something like that.
All right, we've got Kaylee from Firefly.
So as you just talked about previously and that you show on your Instagram, you have been now doing more behind the scenes directing and everything. What one do you prefer and what's your favorite part of being either on camera and then in directing everything else behind the camera?
Yeah, I guess the big thing from acting to directing was an amazing experience because I had been directed so much, so it was really nice to take on the certain things that I loved and didn't love about being directed to my own directing. And I guess from the experience of acting, I had so many years of observing how kind of film set operated and the kind of collaboration that's going on constantly all the time. So that first-hand experience was really interesting, but I think when I was acting, I became almost too curious in all those other elements. I was so intrigued to understand more about why certain decisions were made and make decisions differently. So I think I realized I think my curiosity is leading me beyond more of just the acting. So I've also just loved being behind the camera. I mean, spending that amount of years in front of the camera playing, one main particular role has been quite liberating, just being behind the camera, and it suits my personality a little bit more, even though I'm up here kind of in a way in front of a camera. It's my more sort of natural introverted self very much settles behind a camera. And the things I love within that are just being there from the conception of an idea. Obviously when you're acting, you're coming in a much later stage, whereas directing, you're very much developing the story, you're shooting it, and then you're doing the post-production and the editing, and I love every element of that, and I love working a lot with people. And then the acting that I guess what I miss from acting is stepping into someone else's world, because obviously when you're directing it, you're building this entire world where it is always fun to come in with a little less responsibility, but you have this one like job that you can go and you know how to sort of do really well, step into like a character. So yeah, I guess I do miss stepping into other people's worlds, which is not, I guess the only way you can do that when you're directing is by directing something else that someone else has written. That's the easiest way to kind of try it. But I've mainly been I mean, the last acting I did was a good like 4 or 5 years ago, so I very much now focused on my directing. I think the only way I'd act maybe again is if I somehow like write a character for myself, maybe. But yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, right over here.
Hi, so thank you for being here, but so the vast majority of my childhood, my mom like read the Harry Potter books to me as a bedtime story, so it was like all my childhood wrapped around that, and I know that all of your early life and early adult life was playing Ginny, so being so involved in that character, are there ways that you identify with Ginny, or are you like a completely different person than Ginny?
Yeah, I think also I spent so much time with her that the lines began to blur for sure. I think there was so much of her that was like super similar to me. I mean, I definitely obviously didn't come from a family of that size with that many brothers, but I was a younger sister, I had one older brother, so we got that dynamic. You know, she has Quidditch, I loved sports at school, and I was a very kind of tomboy girl at school and kind of continued to be. So that I really understood of her and the kind of blended in, and I kind of fed Ginny parts of me and vice versa. I think then the other parts of her, the kind of characteristics I was explaining before, that sort of like quiet, sort of courageous kind of warrior was definitely something I would like to be and maybe like was inspired to be, but I definitely didn't maybe have that naturally within me. So there was a lot of her that I was definitely inspired by. And I think just generally, you know, the female characters that Joe Rowling wrote in the stories were, at the time, characters as a kid I'd never really kind of experienced as female characters. And I think that's why so many, you know, people have really responded to her stories because they create these characters that we either kind of aspire to be, or characters that need to be shown for their kind of flaws, whether or not they were the kind of more sort of evil characters. But yeah, I guess there was a lot that I aspired to be maybe more, and the lines did continue to blur. And for all of us, when we finished shooting, like, it took a lot longer, I think, than we each thought to sort of reflect back on like our characters and the entire experience and how that shaped like who we were. And I think it took me more years than I thought it would. You know, you're in this kind of very safe bubble of filming something with these people that you become really, really good friends with. And even though there's the, you know, the movies are coming out and there's the expectation and people and the phenomena that's existing and buzzing around these movies, at the end of the day I still felt like quite safe within in the kind of environment of shooting. And it wasn't until afterwards that the scale of it really hit me. And so that's been a really interesting process, just kind of almost, I guess, the celebration of like how impactful the stories were for myself and for everyone like myself watching it. So it's been cool to like celebrate like Ginny in my life in a way. Yeah. Thank you.
Hi, right over here.
Hi. Since you have read the books and you understand the narrative throughout, is there anything you would have wanted to do differently or like shoot a scene in another direction?
A scene that I was in to different?
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of almost sometimes the worst thing to do, to like pull apart what you've done already, because it's there and it's burnt into celluloid, as they say. So it's not, there's something that, you know, I'm sure I would do every single scene differently, because we all change and we evolve and we learn all the time about, you know, how we do things differently. Probably wouldn't, I definitely wouldn't change my first scene. I think I'm too cute and adorable as a 9-year-old. I think I change that. I think it's the later films that are closer to my age now, and I see myself more in her and that character. Would I change anything? I mean, I'm sure I would change a bunch of things. Or like I was saying, I think I would change things if I was able to show some more things in terms of like including more scenes. It's pretty hard when you have like only a few moments to encapsulate this, really important relationship that Ginny and Harry have. So I think I would change some of that if I could, but I also just, it is what it is, and it's reflective of like who I was at that time. But yeah, I think I'd overthink it now. I think like I was just like in it there, and especially when I was younger, I think that was the beauty of all of us getting into it so young. I'm like so thankful that those films happened when I was 9 and not when I was 19. And I ended when I was 19, but I'm pleased I didn't get into them when I was 19, because suddenly, you're self-conscious and you're sort of overthinking things. As we all know, we have, those voices in the back of our heads, and we're, analyzing it a lot more. But when I was 9, I was just like fully just in the moment and present. So I maybe do it worse now than I did then. So yeah, thank you.
Right over here. Hi there.
Hi, why did you audition for Jenny instead of some other character like Hermione?
Yeah, well, it was like I was saying, it was my brother's idea. He was the one who cleverly, he should probably be like a casting director. I guess I had the red hair, so I was like, well, it's maybe easy to go for that role. Yeah, I don't know, I never even, literally, the minute my brother said Ginny, I was like, Ginny, that's all I'm concentrating on. I didn't even, I read the first book before I went for the first audition, so obviously then I was introduced to all the roles and characters. But it also just suited me. I wasn't really even in school plays and different things at schools, I was always like the periphery kind of like characters that had good things to do, but I was never like the person who wanted to be the...
Just like that great walk-on moment.
Yeah, exactly. Come in, do my thing, and leave the responsibilities and then. So yeah, I guess I had an affinity to her because my brother kind of planted that seed in me, and that's all I thought of. So, what?
Thank you.
Thanks.
Right over here.
How did you find out you got the role of Ginny, and how did you react?
Oh yeah, I was in the car with my parents and my brother, and so I've been to 2 auditions at this point. And we were driving away for a vacation on the weekend or something out of the city. And my brother and I, as we all know, the minute our parents kind of are acting strange, you pick up on it really quickly. I'm like, what is wrong with mum and dad? They've been like whispering, not talking to us, like what's going on? And so halfway through the journey, we're on the freeway and they turn around and they're like, so, looks like you got the part. And we were like, and we rolled the windows down on the freeway, and my brother and I just screamed super loud. We rolled the windows back up, and we're like, what now? What does that mean? Because it was also new, the experience to us. But the hysteria was definitely there. But it was like this kind of, okay, cool, and now what? And it was one of those things that you get excited, and then oh, you're filming in 5 months' time, and you're like, oh, I've got to wait 5 months to figure out what this is. But it's funny because, and then also King's Cross Station, where obviously my scene is at platform 9 3/4, was a station that I used to take the train to all the time to go see my grandma. So filming on that set in a familiar place, yet completely unfamiliar, because there was hundreds of people and cameras and costumes and all these things. And Julie Walters, who played my mum, Mrs. Weasley, she literally was, she steered me through that experience. She was like, I got you, because I was totally confused, but and they'd already been filming for quite a while when I stepped, so people, everyone had kind of become friends slightly already, so I was stepping into this new kind of space. But I'm always so thankful that I had the Weasley family, because that was we obviously got to do loads of other scenes in the burrows and everything, but it also was a little kind of safe network that was a bit more manageable than the scale of the films at that age.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello.
Hi. Speaking of the Weasley family, they're my favorite wizarding family. I just love them. And I was wondering, who is your favorite Weasley brother and why?
Oh my God. catch on yet, so clearly they all think I love them separately and equally. No, I mean, that's just like, you couldn't ask a parent that. Or I hope if the parent wouldn't answer that question. I love them all equally.
That's a solid, safe answer.
Yeah.
Moving on. I guess the Gryffindor.
Hello. Was it difficult to portray Ginny?
To portray? Do you know what, I mean, you have so much material in the book that not really. I mean, anytime I ever was questioning things, I just reread the books. And kind of got a lot from that. Yeah, I don't know. And then by the end of it, I'd been with her for so long that it was kind of this second skin, and lines began to blur, and who knows which was who, and it was me. I mean, there were definitely challenging moments for sure. I think often there's just, you know, my character obviously grew so much towards the end of the series, so the expectation and the pressure that you put on yourself to kind of achieve what you want to achieve is definitely like challenging, but I wouldn't have ever wanted it any differently. Like, I mean, I'm very pleased that it did go somewhere, the character. It was definitely strange doing like the epilogue scene, you know, when we're aged and we have our children and everything. That was quite like bizarre to portray because it wasn't anything I could pull from my own experience at all. So that was quite a different role. But it was cool because we filmed that scene last, and obviously that was back on platform 9 3/4. So I had this like really cool like full loop, and like the girl who was playing our daughter was the same age I was when I started the films. So it was this like really cool like full circle.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Beautiful closure to your experience. Yes, right over here.
Good morning. My question to you is going to be, there are a lot of different magical creatures throughout the movies and throughout the books. If you could breathe life into one creature, which one would it be and why?
Yeah, that little fluffy. Yeah, I think once you stroke them, they're like, this is all you do. Like, what else do you do? I loved Buckbeak. I was like, I will have a ride on Buckbeak. That'd be pretty cool. And I mean, also it was wild about, you know, the level, like I was saying, the level of detail that they put into the sets. They did the same with the creatures. So most films, you know, you see like concept art drawings of like what the creatures are going to look like, or what any visual effects, and then that's pretty much your only interaction with them until you see the film on the screen and you're like, oh, that's what it looked like. I didn't know that's what it was going to look like. But on our sets, they built like life-size versions of all the creatures that you saw. Even if at times we used the visual effects of them, there was always kind of something that you could touch and feel and interact with in any moments they could use them, which was unheard of really, to be able to have the budget to make a full Buckbeak that like every single feather was put in by hand and like flocked in a way that looked like a bird's, you know, feathers would move and change. Or like in the centaurs, obviously their body is like a horse, and they flocked the like hair of the horse to be like how a, you know, real horse would be around like the muscle of their leg and all those things. So the detail of that was just like incredible. And Dobby was like a real little cute like animatronic Dobby that was like fully real, and the skin felt like skin, and it was kind of amazing that all these things like came alive and we were able to like interact with them and make them. So I don't know, I love all the creatures. That's what I've loved about Fantastic Beasts, is all these like new ones that have come out, and I love that that's like the key focus and the lens that you see that film through. It's through these animals are, you know, magical in their own way, so they kind of like feed, I think, a magical kind of world and story super well.
Thank you.
Thanks. Hi, right over here.
So, what was your least favorite part and favorite part about, you know, playing Ginny, like her character?
Only my least favorite part. I think my favorite and least favorite part in one scene together was the Chamber of Secrets, because I lay on that Chamber of Secrets floor for a really long time and it was really wet and cold, but I was like, loved the Chamber of Secrets because it was this really significant, you know, set for me and experience. So I for weeks kind of liked it but hated it, and then I was like, I'm gonna come alive soon. Like maybe tomorrow they'll get to that scene, maybe tomorrow, and then finally I get to wake up, and it was like the most exciting thing. And I think that's like, I always laugh when I see that scene, because I'm like, that's real, that's not acting. I'm like, and I'm like, oh, so that was my favorite, because yeah, it suddenly catapulted me into Ginny in the sense of like her significance and how much more performance I had. So yeah, I look back with different, equal memories of the chamber sequence.
Thank you.
Thanks. Yes, right over here.
So how did you end up on a Disney Channel movie as Vanessa?
Oh yeah, that was yeah, one episode that I played a voice on for a Disney show. I mean, like anything, you just kind of either audition for it or the part is offered to you, and I really enjoyed that, doing a voiceover. It was really nice just to be in like a quiet studio and just be, you know, less, like I was saying, I'm naturally someone who very much likes to be, I realize now, more behind the camera, so that almost kind of gave me that perfect equal balance of like doing the performances that I loved and the world and the character, but like not having to be in front of the camera. And since then, I actually have two projects coming up that are going to be not for cartoons, but essentially like for audiobooks. So I'm looking forward to those. One I can't talk about, but one you're going to be very excited for. That is kind of to do with the world we're talking about. But yeah, that'll come out, I don't know when soon, I think in the holiday period. But I really enjoyed that, so, and I'm excited to do more.
So did you audition for that one?
No, I don't think I did actually. I think that role was just offered to me as a kind of like a guest role on it. Because they like, in the episode, they like go to London. So they're like, oh, you've got an English accent? So I did that, yeah, that was, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Wonder Woman.
Hi.
Hi there.
So I just had a question, like, how did you react when Fred died? And like, how did you get in that mindset of like, that's like how I'm gonna portray that?
Yeah, it was difficult. I mean, in the Battle of Hogwarts, like so many of our loved characters, you know, had these awful death sequences. So it was this, there was a real kind of somberness on set as we were coming, because we were coming to the closure of the films, and they were some of the last scenes we shot. So it was this idea that there was almost like the death of the film as well as the death of these characters. And it was something that I really was not looking forward to filming, any of those moments. And just making, you know, with anything, it's like the pressure to make it feel as kind of palpable and real as you can. But I'm trying to like remember I think honestly I was more like seeing the two, I guess I've become so close to James and Oliver and knew them so well, so well separately. Like to me they're just two completely different, you know, people within that. Obviously we see them as, well, they're often just called like the Weasley twins, which is like not like maybe the best way to respond and call a twin that are each individual selves. So watching that partnership like split essentially was almost the worst thing to watch. Like watching that happen, just the two of them, was kind of sad in itself. Like it wasn't really about like my reaction to it when it was happening. I was literally just looking. No, it's like when you watch a like bride and groom and you're actually just watching the groom as the bride appears. Like that's going to tell more, that's going to almost tell more about the relationship than watching the bride. It was kind of like similar to that. But yeah, it was not fun. But then it's fine, and then cameras, you know, cut and he stepped up and he's alive, so it's good.
All right, well,
thank you.
That was our very last question. So the time ran away with us. So many great questions today. So everybody, let's hear a round of applause for Ronnie Wright. Thank you so much.